Late one afternoon, you walk into a courtroom where there is no judge in robes, no jury scribbling notes, only a large display, cameras, and a digital voice calmly stating charges and verdicts. This unsettling future may not be as far off as it sounds. Advances in artificial intelligence have begun to creep into legal systems, from predictive policing algorithms to risk assessment tools used in sentencing. But what happens when we consider a scenario where AI doesn't just advise but effectively becomes the judge, jury, and even executioner? Welcome to Algorithmic Justice, when AI becomes judge, jury, and executioner, where we dig into the ethical landmines of letting machines decide guilt or innocence. If you find these questions about technology and fundamental rights important, please consider subscribing. We'll keep probing how AI is reshaping society's most sacred institutions, often more quickly than we can legislate or morally digest. For years, AI-driven tools have assisted courts in certain jurisdictions. Risk assessment algorithms try to predict whether a defendant is likely to reoffend, guiding bail or sentencing. At face value, it seems logical. Feed the AI the individual's past record, social background, and other data, and let the model compute the likelihood of flight risk or recidivism. The pitch is that these systems eliminate human bias, providing an objective score. Yet almost immediately, real-world biases emerged. Studies found that some widely used algorithms disproportionately labeled African American defendants as high risk, while letting white defendants off with lower scores, even if both groups had similar criminal histories. The underlying training data, itself shaped by decades of biased policing, effectively taught the AI to replicate those systemic prejudices. Critics argued that the AI, far from impartial, was just coding the status quo into digital form. Now imagine we take that to the next level. An AI not only influences a sentence, but autonomously decides guilt or innocence. Let's say a hypothetical RoboCourt 2.0 sifts through all evidence: police reports, testimonies, body camera footage, and relevant law. It spits out a verdict: guilty, sentence 5 years. This might expedite the backlog of cases, sure, cases that often languish in courts for months. But can we truly trust that the machine has accounted for nuance, for intangible aspects like the defendant's motive or emotional state? Or that it hasn't inadvertently weighed certain evidence too heavily because of some data quirk? Traditional judges weigh intangible factors like remorse or witness credibility. AI, being reliant on codified inputs, might not even see those intangible cues, unless specifically programmed, and even then it's no guarantee it's capturing the subtlety. Proponents highlight the possibility that an advanced AI, trained on mountains of case law, legal precedents, and real-time data, might surpass human judges in consistency. After all, humans carry biases. Some might give harsher sentences on a Friday afternoon, or be swayed by a defendant's appearance. An AI wouldn't tire, wouldn't be influenced by personal prejudices, wouldn't hold grudges. But that's a double-edged sword. AI can also incorporate hidden biases from training data, or apply logic that's systematically skewed in ways no one anticipates. The difference is that a human judge can be challenged, can introspect, can explain. A black box algorithm might churn out a decision with zero transparency. Even if we demand an explanation, the system's reasoning is often buried in millions of neural network parameters, yielding only bland rationales that might not hold up under close scrutiny. Then there's the scenario of the AI effectively acting as executioner. Historically, capital punishment decisions revolve around moral, philosophical, and emotional debates in the courtroom. Yet an AI might reduce it to a cost-benefit analysis. Probability of reoffense is 78%, cost of lifetime incarceration is X, so lethal injection is recommended. The starkness of that logic is chilling. Humanity has often recognized the gravity of imposing irreversible punishment, embedding appeals, pardons, and jury deliberations as safeguards. An AI's conclusion might skip some or all of those steps if we let it. Even if we keep the pretense of a human check to sign off, we risk that the official just defers to the expert system. People often overtrust AI recommendations, assuming they must be correct. That dynamic magnifies the tragedy if the system is flawed. A deeper ethical question arises: can an AI truly understand justice, or is it just a sophisticated pattern-matching tool? Justice is more than a sum of data points. It's about compassion, redemption, deterrence, and moral responsibility, concepts notoriously hard to quantify. Some philosophers argue you can't replicate moral reasoning in a purely statistical engine. Others believe advanced cognitive architectures might eventually handle moral frameworks, though whose ethics does it adopt? Western legal traditions? Indigenous principles of restorative justice? A generic average? The moment we program moral guidelines into an AI, we're injecting subjective human biases into it, ironically deflating the dream of perfect objectivity. These dilemmas intensify when you consider wrongful conviction. Imagine an AI's verdict leads to imprisoning an innocent person. Typically, an exoneration might happen if new evidence appears, or if an appellate court re-examines the trial process. But if the entire process is governed by a self-learning AI, how do we correct mistakes? Will the algorithm double down on its original position if the new data doesn't meet some threshold? Will we even have an appellate AI? Or do we revert to a human panel that might not fully understand how the system reached its initial conclusion? In a system that processes thousands of cases a day, any error rate, say 1%, could ruin many innocent lives. Another angle: what if hackers subvert these AI-based legal systems? The judge, jury, executioner AI might be compromised to systematically convict certain demographics or to release high-profile criminals for a bribe. In a normal court, bribing or threatening multiple judges, jurors, or attorneys might be logistically difficult. But hacking a single system might instantly warp outcomes across a region. The AI, ironically, might produce consistent, logical rulings while funneling unfair sentences or acquittals for individuals the hackers want. That kind of infiltration could shake society's bedrock trust in the rule of law. It's not purely theoretical. We already see cracks with simpler systems like automated traffic cameras that occasionally misread license plates or misinterpret weather phenomena. Scale that up to a criminal court context and the stakes multiply exponentially. Even more subtle infiltration might revolve around data poisoning, where someone manipulates the training data so the AI overestimates guilt for certain neighborhoods or crime types. The result? A massive wave of convictions in those areas, further fueling societal inequalities. So is there any benefit at all? Advocates say yes. In many regions, legal backlogs lead to indefinite pretrial detentions, especially for poor defendants who can't post bail. An impartial AI might expedite bail decisions or sentencing, removing years of waiting in legal limbo. Also, a properly designed system might minimize personal biases from judges. We've seen real studies where sentencing outcomes vary widely based on a judge's mood or the time of day, the so-called justice by geography phenomenon. An AI could unify standards, guaranteeing that similar crimes get similar sentences, no matter the judge's personal quirks or local culture. The dream is uniform fairness, yet the devil is in the details. We must ensure the training data itself isn't riddled with inequities. Regulatory bodies could try to ensure algorithmic transparency, maybe requiring these judicial AI systems to pass rigorous testing, reveal their training sets, and provide interpretable outputs. Some propose algorithmic auditing, akin to financial auditing, where independent experts regularly check for bias or anomalies. Another approach is mandated human-in-the-loop final approval. The AI might recommend a verdict, but a flesh-and-blood judge has to sign off, with the right to override. Even that is a partial safeguard, because judges might get lazy or over-rely on the AI. The sense of personal responsibility might erode if the machine does the heavy lifting. In the broader philosophical sense, algorithmic justice questions whether society is ready to cede life-altering decisions to lines of code. Legal systems have historically been about human conscience, empathy, and sometimes even forgiveness, qualities an AI doesn't possess. We might gain speed or consistency, but lose the intangible sense that your fate rests in the hands of peers who can appreciate your humanity. Critics warn that if we adopt AI judges, we risk reducing defendants to data points, flattening out the narrative arcs that define human wrongdoing or redemption. On the other hand, defenders argue we already rely heavily on machine logic in finance, healthcare, and other critical spheres. Why not harness that efficiency for courts, especially if it can reduce error and bias at scale? They emphasize that current systems are far from perfect. Wrongful convictions occur, judges carry prejudices, and the wealthy often manipulate outcomes. If we meticulously design an AI to factor in moral and ethical guidelines, it might surpass that messy, flawed system. The real question is whether we can achieve such meticulous design without encoding existing prejudice or creating new forms of injustice. In the near term, the path probably isn't a black and white choice of fully automated justice. We might see incremental expansions of AI's role, from risk assessments to sentencing recommendations, from scanning evidence for relevant precedents to even generating entire case analyses. The tension lies in ensuring these tools remain exactly that, tools, rather than undisputed authorities. Because once a system is recognized as more accurate than any single human judge, the temptation is to let it rule. And that's when the concept of accountability, empathy, and second chances might slip away. For anyone interested in shaping this conversation, awareness is vital. By understanding how AI infiltration in the legal system can be both beneficial and perilous, citizens and policymakers can advocate for frameworks that preserve due process. That includes pushing for diverse, bias-checked training data, robust error checking, open audits, and mandatory human oversight. In a world racing to integrate AI everywhere, the fight for a just, humane legal system could become one of the defining ethical battlegrounds of our age. So the next time you imagine stepping into a courtroom of the future, ask yourself, is it reassuring or disturbing if the verdict is handed down by an algorithm? Because in the quest to streamline justice, we risk forging an automated apparatus that might, and likely will, get it wrong sometimes, with no one to answer for those mistakes. The stakes, human freedom, even life or death, couldn't be higher. If you find these explorations indispensable, consider subscribing to continue following the ethical dilemmas of advanced technology. One way or another, algorithmic justice is coming, and the choices we make now will shape whether it liberates us from prejudice or shackles us to a new form of digital tyranny.